Hu Feiyang suddenly wakes up in Lai Nunxio's body in a classroom while receiving a lecture. He sees the statue of himself outside, across the window, and begins to wonder if he got reincarnated. It's been 15 years since he died. The professor asks him a question, and he is disappointed that a top-ranked 9 alchemist on the continent is being asked such a basic question. Well, nobody knows he is that since he just woke up in a young boy's body. He gives an answer and the professor gets shocked, but the whole class starts to rain insults on him since an obviously correct answer is written in the textbook. However, the professor confirms that he is correct, and she wonders how he knows the information that was not included in the textbook. She starts to contemplate that his talent could lie in alchemy, as opposed to the incompetence he is known for in martial arts due to his closed chakras. She then asks him some other tougher questions, and he answers them so easily that she even got solutions to some of the difficulties she had been having. She quickly leaves the class and everyone starts to wonder if Lai Yongxiao had suddenly become smarter. He heads to the alchemist tower to see Yang Di, his former disciple, so he can help him fix his weak current body. On entering the tower, he meets the receptionist and asks for Yang Di, but unfortunately, he is told that Yang Di, the former chairman of the association, stopped working there 20 years ago. Lai Nunxio wanted him to make some pills for him so he could use them in opening his chakras, but now he has to find a way to do this by himself. He then tells the receptionist a list of some materials he would need. However, Zhirong, a rank 1 alchemist, interrupts them and tells the receptionist to go and attend to someone. He checks the list and throws it away like trash. He then tells Lai Nunxio to leave as the alchemist tower isn't a place for kids. However, Lai Nunxio detects that Zhirong just recently became an alchemist through some shortcuts he took so he could pass the alchemist exam. Zhirong is shocked but ignores him. However, he gives him attention and starts to beg him when Yunxio tells him the consequence and how he knows the solution to it. Everyone is shocked to see an alchemist bowing to a young boy. Lai Nunxio tells him to find and bring 10 batches of every item on the list to him at the academy. The receptionist reports the event to Lord Lang, a rank 2 alchemist. He asks to check the list of the items the young boy asked for, and he is shocked that he doesn't even know some of the materials listed. He sees it as extremely valuable and tells the receptionist to keep Lai Nunxio around by all means and inform him immediately when next he comes. Lai Nunxio walks along the street and reasons that he has to find other ways since the herbs would be difficult for Zhirong to find. He checks the young boy's storage ring and sees a useful weapon, a sword, he can make use of before he opens his chakras. As he approaches the academy's gate, he is attacked by 2 guys, Du Feng and Lu Ji. Han Bai and Chen Zhen, Lai Yongxiao's best friends, suddenly appear too, to defend him. As they fight, Lu Ji breaks Han Bai's arm. However, Princess Qinruxu appears to defend Lai Yongxiao also, and the 2 guys decide to honor the princess and leave. As they leave, Lai Nunxio challenges them, and Du Feng dashes at him. He kicks Du Feng on his balls just as he tries to attack him, leaving Du Feng paralyzed. Lu Ji tries to attack him too, and he receives his fair share too. Lai Nunxio's friends are surprised by this, and they ask him if he has by any chance opened his chakras. His friends and the princess begin to fear that Lan Fi, who has opened 7 chakras and has almost broken through to the realm of a marital warrior, would seek revenge on him since Du Feng and Lu Ji are his lackeys. Lai Yongxiao gets to his room and considers that his body is too weak. He decides to train to strengthen his body to at least make up for his closed chakras. He decides to practice the Tarrant body tempering technique he'd acquired from Ao Chang Kong, the strongest of the 10 martial sovereigns. He gained the cultivation method in his previous life, but died before he could cultivate it. This technique could bring him to the same level as the martial sovereigns once cultivated, even if he can't open his chakras. He starts the cultivation process and starts to feel great pain, as though his body is about to be ripped apart. He goes to the gravity training hall and enters the basic 10x gravity chamber to build his body so it can endure the pills when he starts taking the medications to open his chakras. Afterward, he goes to the 10-fold gravity training hall. As he enters the 200-chambered hall, he meets some apprentices also waiting to enter the available chambers. He takes a quick scan with his divine sense and discovers a room that is about to be vacant. He goes there, and as soon as he gets there, the apprentice inside finishes his training and comes out. The other apprentices who have been waiting for hours for vacant rooms are surprised and wonder how he could locate a vacant room very quickly. As he tries to enter the chamber, Yu Heshing, a peak-level martial apprentice with 7 open chakras, blocks the way. After a while, Yu Heshing attacks him with the crouching tiger fist technique, but it doesn't cause any damage to him. Lai Yongxiao critiques his usage of the technique and tells him the proper way to use it if he wants to land a fatal blow. Yu Heshing tries to attack him again, but he uses a strange movement and hits him instead. However, he is disappointed that he couldn't knock him out in one hit due to the weakness of his body. They are all surprised that he could do that without showing a hint of the Yuan energy that is released from those with open chakras. They all soon discover that he is Lai Yongxiao, the young master from the Lai family, the guy who cannot cultivate his strength when a lady named Luo Landuo comes in. Lai Yongxiao had tried severally to woo Luo Landuo before Gu Feiyang reincarnated, but got turned down because he is weak. She told him she would only accept him if he could beat her in a fight. Lai Yongxiao leaves them and enters the chamber. He soon begins his training. He continues to train aggressively for 3 days, even though he is feeling much pain, yet he continues. After 3 days, he comes out of the chamber tattered and wounded, and everyone wonders why he is training so hard even with his closed chakras. They soon find out that he has smashed the black iron stone they have been practicing on for years in the chamber to pieces. He goes to his room to clean up, and he uses the Tarrant body tempering technique to completely heal his wounds. Hanbag comes to tell him that the professor has been looking for him, and that Lan Fei has gone into seclusion for some days to break through the ranks of a martial warrior, so he can come and avenge his lackeys. However, Lai Yongxiao is not that worried. He borrows some money from Hanbai to go buy pills. As he leaves, Lan Fei arrives in the glow of Yuanti, the sign of a martial warrior, and injures both Hanbai and Chen Zhen. When he beholds Lai Yongxiao, he starts to feel uneasy and fearful, so he quickly launches an attack with all his strength. However, Lai Yongxiao withstands his attack and this shocks him. Lan Fei launches another attack using the flowing cloud sword technique, but Lai Yongxiao mocks his move and advises him on how to do it properly. He then flings Lan Fei's sword away with his sword, which makes him start to wonder how Lai Yongxiao can do all these even when his chakras have not been open. Lai Yongxiao punches him hard in the face, throwing him off. He moves closer to him and places his sword near his manhood, threatening him. He collects money and other valuable things, including the Lan family protection jade pendant, from him and his other men. He then releases them to go. Meanwhile, Jirong has been watching the fight all along. He wonders how Lai Yongxiao could defeat Lan Fei, and he fears that he can't handle them either. He tells Lai Yongxiao that he has been able to gather 6 batches of what he asked for. Lai Yongxiao then tells him to heal his friends first before anything else. He first refuses, but he does it anyway. He has no choice if he wants the detoxification method from him. After healing his friends, he demands that Lai Yongxiao tell him the detoxification method. Lai Yongxiao gives him the prescription and Jirong sees that it's a reliable one. He then tells Lai Yongxiao that they are now even, since he already got what he wanted. However, Lai Yongxiao tells him that the prescription will only remove the toxins from his body without causing any side effects, but there's another problem the toxins have caused. They have begun to weaken his soul power. He tells him that there's little chance of him ever breaking through to the ranks of a rank 1 alchemist again. However, he also tells him that he knows a way he can recover his soul power and become a real rank 1 alchemist in just 50 days if only he would become his servant. Jirong first protests against being his servant, but later summits, and Lai Yongxiao gives him the soul cultivation art, a very rare soul refining technique. Lai Yongxiao desires to become an existence surpassing even his previous life, breaking through into the realm of the legends, and he is relying on the divine soul expansion technique, which he discovered shortly before his death. He believes this technique must have had something to do with his reincarnation. Using the divine pendant he got from Lan Fei and the materials Jirong got, he practices the cultivation technique and finally opens 5 chakras. Seeing that the jade he got from Lan Fei was very effective in arousing his body's potential, he aims to also obtain the other 4 jade pendants from the Lan family. His 2 friends come to see him and warn him about a potential threat. Lan Fei's half-brother, Lan Xuan, ranked 3rd in the entire academy. Lai Yongxiao makes him his next target instead, as he needs to get his hand on his divine pendant also. Lan Fei goes to see his uncle, Wang Feng, to help him get his divine pendant back from Lai Yongxiao. Wang Feng, a teacher in the academy, tells him that he will find a way to use the academy's rules to expel Lai Yongxiao at the academy's annual assessment that will be held in 7 days as long as Lai Nunxio can't show his chakra glow. They will then retrieve the jade from him as soon as he leaves the academy. Lan Fei feels that 7 days is too long to have Lai Yangxiu expelled and comes up with a plan to get him expelled before then. Lu Yangxiu receives a letter while practicing his cultivation in his room. He checks it and sees that it's a love letter from Lu Landuo, asking that they meet up at Maple Grove. He dresses up and leaves. Meanwhile, some guys were sent by Lan Fei to plant some things in his room while he is away. However, unknowingly to them, Lai Yangxiu finds out. He heads back to his room after they had left and sees female underwears under his bed cover. He decides to play along also. He goes to Maple Grove, and on getting there, a young lady comes running to him asking him to save her from a guy who is trying to assault her. However, Lai Yangxiu had already sent someone to inform the academy officials. The dean of students, Teacher Feng, appears with some other people, and the guy and the lady are shocked. They were planning to frame Lai Yangxiu, but he was smarter than them. After a while, as they attend to the issue, Lan Fei appears with some people reporting that there's a thief who steals female students' underwear in the academy. He claims that someone saw the thief running in the direction of Maple Grove. He points out Lai Nunxio as a suspect with the backing of the witness and requests that they search his dorm to prove his innocence. Lai Nunxio agrees and decides to take them to his dorm. On getting to Lai Nunxio's dorm, they are surprised to meet Wang Feng, Lan Fei's uncle, already waiting there. Wang Feng tells them he hears that a perverted thief is causing trouble and is there to observe and capture the thief. After a while, they all head into Lai Nunxio's dorm to search. Meng Kun, the witness, is told to do a thorough search, and after much searching, he is shocked as he doesn't find any evidence to prove that Lai Nunxio is guilty as he was expecting. He whispers to Lan Fei that he can't find what they planted in Lai Nunxio's room, and Lan Fei gets shocked. Wang Feng, knowing that their plans did not work out, makes up excuses and says the school will look into the matter. He tries to leave, but Lai Nunxio protests that Lan Fei must give him an explanation for what just happened. Lai Nunxio accuses Meng Kun of bearing a false witness and says Lan Fei, his boss, must be responsible for this. He then says they must search Lan Fei's dorm too. On getting to Lan Fei's dorm, with nothing to hide, he willingly tells them to search his whole room. After a while, a chest is brought out, and when Lan Fei opens it, they shockingly find several female underwears in it. A piece of information also reveals that Lan Fei forces his lackeys to do horrible things. Everyone starts to demand justice. Wang Feng is surprised that Lai Nunxio could be that good at scheming. Lan Fei begs his uncle to help him, but his uncle despises him and leaves. Soon, the academy's verdict was released, and Lan Fei was expelled. Hanbai informs Lai Nunxio about the expulsion and tells him they are doomed to fail as the year's examiner is Wang Feng. Lu Yangxiu doesn't budge. He says he will also kick Wang Feng out along with Lan Fei if he tries to do anything. He then asks about Lan Xuan, and Hanbai panics as he replies that Lan Xuan has already announced that he will avenge his brother. Instead, Lai Yangxiu sees this as an opportunity to obtain his divine stone. Meanwhile, at the Tower of the Alchemist Guild, Professor Yunsheng makes an upper first-tier quality axe based on the solution Lai Yangxiu gave her in class. She presents it to Shihan, the president of the guild, and he commends her. He then asks her how she could do it, as she had always failed in the past examinations, and she tells them the solution Lai Yangxiu gave her. The masters are all surprised and commend her smartness for discovering a solution, as they celebrate her in Zhirong. As the country's rising star, Su Yuantio, one of the alchemist guilds, spills that Zhirong is severely poisoned from cheating to pass his assessment. However, he gets disappointed when Zhirong shows them he is in good condition. He has been following Lai Yangxiu's prescription. Su Yuantio is shocked and decides to use his divine sense to examine him to expose him still. The force of Zhirong's soul power pushes him away, and he is shocked at how Zhirong's soul power could be this strong. He starts to feel enormous pain and begs that the president allow him to retire and return to his birthplace to spend the rest of his life there. Su Yuanchio's soul power had reduced, and his body had aged due to Zhirong's strike. Zhirong is surprised at the result he could achieve in just 5 days of practicing Lai Nunxio's soul training technique. The president is amused by his progress. After that, Nunsheng tells Zhirong she wants him to guide one of her students, who has great potential to become an apprentice alchemist. Not knowing it is Lai Nunxio, Zhirong tells her that he will take him in only on the condition that he meets the minimum standards of an apprentice alchemist. 3 days later, there's the annual exam at Jialan Academy, and the exam is used to promote the students who pass and eliminate the students who fail. Wan Yang is the examiner in the stead of Professor Yunsheng and seeks to make Lai Yunxio fail, this time to avenge his nephew, Lan Fei. He changes the rule of the exam in this regard, stating that every student must open their chakra and be able to throw a punch with a force of over 1,000 pounds if they want to pass. He asks who would be the first to be assessed, and Lai Yunxio steps out confidently. He opens all 7 chakras, and everyone becomes shocked. He then then leaves a large crack on the rock with a powerful punch that makes everyone compare him to a martial warrior. This leaves Wang Yang dumbfounded, as he never expected him to be that powerful. Lai Yongxiu excuses himself and takes his leave. As he leaves, Lan Xuan arrives and gives him a battle challenge letter to avenge his brother. He tells Lai Yongxiu to either get on his knees and apologize for messing with the Lan family or accept the challenge and get completely destroyed. Lai Yongxiu's friends get scared for him and try to talk Lan Xuan out of the fight, but Lai Yongxiu accepts the challenge. He then promises to beat Lan Xuan to his knees and make him lick his shoes in 3 days. Lai Yongxiu visits the Alchemist Tower, where he sees a martial apprentice, Lu Yu, finding it difficult to carry out a pill refining process. Miss Lu Yao, the Alchemist Guild receptionist, arrives and recognizes him. She tells him that Master Liang praised him after he read his prescription that day. He then tells her that he has come to see Zhirong, and she decides to take him to meet him. Lu Yu is disappointed that he failed again and tells Lu Yao that maybe he doesn't have the talent to become an alchemist. Lai Yongxiu instructs him on refining the medicine successfully, and Lu Yao encourages him to try it out. Lu Yao takes Lai Yongxiu to Zhirong's room, and she is surprised at how prideful Zhirong is acting around Lai Yongxiu like a servant. After she leaves, Lai Yongxiu tells Zhirong that he wants him to refine some pills. Zhirong is shocked and tells him he can't refine them, but Li Yongxiu tells him he will guide him through the process. Zhirong gathers the ingredients, and they begin to refine the pills. After a while, Zhirong successfully refines the pills, and he is filled with awe. However, Lai Yongxiu complains that the purity of the pills is so low. He then takes the pills and further purifies them. Zhirong finds this unbelievable. He has always known about the purification of ingredients and not objects. Lai Yongxiu plans to use the pills to break through the origin realm in 3 days. Zhirong is shocked by Lai Yongxiu's mastery and desires to follow him forever. As Lai Yongxiu heads back, he sees Lu Yu rejoicing that he has finally refined the medicine. Lai Yongxiu leaves immediately to go and cultivate in seclusion, as he must condense yuan energy and break through the origin realm if he wants to defeat Lan Xuan. Nunxing meets with Zhang Lishan, the academy dean, who tells her about the events that happened while she was in seclusion. Nunxing is shocked to hear that Lai Yongxiu accepted Lan Xuan's battle challenge. She worries about Lai Yongxiu and tells the dean that the fight must be stopped as Lan Xuan is more powerful than he is. At the martial arts arena, Lan Xuan sits down, waiting for Lai Yongxiu to come. As Lai Yongxiu is delayed, everyone thinks he has run away for his life as they haven't seen him for some days. However, to their shock, Lai Yongxiu suddenly arrives. As he walks closer to Lan Xuan, teacher Yunsheng interrupts and says the match is cancelled. Others begin to say he was fearless because he had planned with teacher Luo beforehand. However, Lai Yongxiu still proceeds to fight Lan Xuan, saying he will destroy him in no time. Yunsheng is surprised at Lai Yongxiu's strong will and concludes that the only thing she can do is to prepare to save Lai Yongxiu when it's time. Suddenly, Lai Yongxiu unleashes the aura of a martial warrior around him, and everyone becomes shocked, wondering how he could be a warrior of the origin realm. Lan Xuan also unleashes a stronger aura, and everyone comments that Lai Yongxiu won't last one move. The dean also arrives to watch the match. He notices something strange about Lai Yongxiu's movement and is startled by his advanced martial technique. Lan Xuan makes the first attack, but Lai Yongxiu dodges it while still maintaining his pace and movement, which the dean believes he is trying to complete a strange set of steps. Suddenly, Lai Yongxiu starts to bar the force of heaven and earth, which drops the jaw of everyone. Soon he is seen using the floating life seal technique, and even the dean is shocked as he couldn't find a way to do it. He wonders if Lai Yongxiu is Yang Di's disciple. The force of the backslash technique becomes so overwhelming on Lan Xuan that it knocks him to his knees and rips all his clothes. Suddenly, the floating life seal smacks into the ground, completely paralyzing him. Everyone is surprised as they never expected Lan Xuan, a 9-star martial warrior, to be easily defeated by Lai Yongxiu, who is merely a 1-star martial warrior. Lai Yongxiu hits Lan Xuan on his stomach with his foot, breaking his stanchion and crippling him. He then makes him lick his shoe as he promised. The dean quickly runs to stop Lai Yongxiu, but he has already done damage to him. Lai Yongxiu tells him to mind his business, and he becomes angry. Nobody has ever dared to speak to him that way. Lai Yongxiu insults him and gets so angry that he unleashes a terrifying aura. However, Lai Yongxiu doesn't fear and still stands with his head high. The dean is surprised that even with the difference of the 4 major realms between them, Lai Yongxiu can still emanate a powerful fighting will. Nunxing feels that Lai Yongxiu's expression and demeanor are similar to Lord Gufai Nang's. Lai Yongxiu swallows the origin blasting pill, the other pill he refined with Zhirong, and starts to make hand movements that cause the winds and clouds to rise. The dean becomes terrified and wonders who Lai Yongxiu really is. He reasons that this is Lord Gufai Yang's great wind and cloud palm. He stops him and tells him not to be so ruthless. He tells him he will let his offense slide, but there won't be a next time. Yunxing goes to tell him to disperse the power, but Lai Yongxiu sits down in a particular pose and starts to absorb the energy from the origin blasting pill. On seeing this unique pose, she observes it and reasons it contains some rules. She then decides to use the pose also to meditate. After a while of meditating using the pose, she discovers discovers that the bottleneck in her cultivation has completely opened, and she has ascended. She later opens her eyes and sees Lai Yongxiao watching her. He congratulates her on her advancement, and she realizes that Lai Yongxiao has also advanced to the level of a 2-star warrior. She demands an explanation from him, but he tells her that he needs to rest for his body to heal from its injuries completely. She then tells him to come and meet her in her office in 3 days. The news soon spreads that Lai Yongxiao defeated Lan Xuan in just one move, and everyone starts to dread him. Even Lan Du is surprised. After 5 days of seclusion, Lai Yongxiao attains the peak 2 stars warrior level with the first tier's soul power restored. He heads home and meets Nunsheng waiting for him there. He tries to avoid her, but she catches him and realizes he has quickly attained a new level. She asks him several questions, demanding explanations for how he has quickly changed when she was away in seclusion. Lai Yongxiao says Yang Di taught him everything, but she doesn't believe him as Yang Di never knew how to use the Great Wind and Cloud Palm. However, since Lai Yongxiao doesn't want to tell her the truth, she tells him he should follow her as she has found a master for him. She takes him to the Alchemist Association to meet Zhirong. Zhirong, not paying attention, tells Nunsheng to take him to the lobby for an apprentice to test his soul power first. Miss Lu Yao sees him and begins to appreciate him for helping her brother succeed in refining. Lai Yongxiao gets flirty, and a commotion soon starts in the hall. This attracts Zhirong's attention, and he discovers that it's Lai Yongxiao. He is shocked and starts to commend him for his diligence before everyone for coming from a far place to learn. Nunsheng tells him she is about to take Lai Yongxiao for the test, and he tells her she doesn't need to. Thinking that Zhirong doesn't want to accept him as his student, she smacks Lai Yongxiao on the head and apologizes. This makes Zhirong uncomfortable. She is hitting his master. Nunsheng continues to smack Lai Yongxiao, and Zhirong gets totally uncomfortable. He begs her not to hit him again. Suddenly, Zhang Qingfen, Tianshui head Imperial Alchemist, arrives and everyone makes way for him. Nunsheng wonders why Master Zhang came to the guild and reasons that it could be because of his daughter's rare and incurable illness. Lai Yongxiao and Zhirong excuse Nunsheng and leave for a secluded place to discuss the sickness. He tells Zhirong to inform Master Zhang that he will treat his daughter with the golden needle acupuncture technique. He gives Zhirong a list of some of the materials he would need and heads to the marketplace to get the other materials himself. He sees Zheng Liang, an apprentice, trying to assault Meng Wu and goes to rescue her. Meng Wu remembers it's the guy he and Lan Fei conspired against. Zheng Liang brags that he is Zhirong's disciple and Long Ho's sworn brother and tells Lai Yongxiao to apologize and give him a few hundred golds as medical fees if he wants him to overlook this. Lai Yongxiao brings out a pouch containing gold and drops it on the ground for him to pick. As he tries to pick the pouch, he sees a terrifying gaze from Lai Yongxiao and gets scared that he might be killed if he picks it. Suddenly, he sees Long Hao passing by and calls for his help. Long Hao intervenes and tells Lai Yongxiao to apologize to him and leave the bag of money. Zheng Liang then tries to pick up the money bag, but as he bends to pick it up, Lai Yongxiao kicks him on his stomach, sending him flying. Zheng Liang becomes crippled and realizes that his Diantian has been broken. Long Hao becomes angry and attacks Lai Yongxiao with his sword. However, Lai Yongxiao catches his sword with 2 fingers, and Long Hao is shocked. Long Hao unseals his jade moonsword and attacks Lai Yongxiao with it, thinking he would deal damages to him with it. However, Lai Yongxiao seals the sword so Long Hao cannot unseal it again. He becomes sad that his treasured sword has been broken, and he orders his men to kill Lai Yongxiao. Lai Yongxiao trounces all of them and takes Long Hao's sword from him. Then the state guardians arrive, wondering why there is a commotion. Long Hao quickly identifies as an Imperial City guard and tells them to save him. One of the state guardians, Wiming, tells Lai Yongxiao to surrender, but he refuses, asking how he knows he is at fault. Wiming says the Imperial guards cannot be wrong and launches an attack at him when he isn't yielding. Lai Yongxiao unseals the sword he got from Long Hao and resists the attack. Wiming sees that he is holding a mystic weapon and desires to take it from him. Lai Yongxiao, knowing that the 2 state guardians are warriors of a realm above his, decides to take the initiative and attack first so they won't crush him. They begin to combat. Wiming unseals his longsword and blocks Lai Yongxiao's sword with it. He then discovers that his longsword has become ineffective. Wu Guang, the other state guardian, realizes that Wiming is already in danger, so he jumps in and attempts to stab Lai Yongxiao from the back. However, he discovers that it's his shadow residual. Wu Guang then realizes that Lai Yongxiao lured him in so he could kill them together. Both of them use a combined technique to make the state guardian Great Bow and attack him with it, causing Lai Yongxiao to be defeated. Meng Wu quickly runs away as instructed by Lai Yongxiao and heads to the Li family mansion to ask for help for Lai Yongxiao. Meanwhile, Wiming takes the moonsword from Lai Yongxiao and leads with it. Long Hao gets angry that Lai Yongxiao made him lose his sword, so he arrests and locks him in prison. Meanwhile, while one of the guards takes Meng Wu's message to Master Lai, Yi, the Lai mansion butler, stops him and tells him to inform her that the master has already been informed and she shouldn't worry. Lai Yongxiao wakes up in prison and cannot move as the meridians of his limbs have all been severed. He sees an old man who tells him they are in the Long family's private prison. The old man tells him about how he was unjustly locked in the prison since he was young and also showed him the other prisoners that have been locked in the prison for a long time. Li Yangxiao is surprised and tells them he will help everyone escape prison. The old man tells him to accept his fate as there is no escaping. Li Yangxiao starts practicing the heavenly tyrant body training technique to repair his broken meridians. Meanwhile, at the Alchemist Association, Yunsheng tells Zhirong that Li Yangxiao has been missing for some days. Master Zhang tells them to continue with the golden acupuncture technique as they can't wait for Li Yangxiao any longer. He thinks Li Yangxiao is an apprentice trying to learn the technique. Zhirong now has no choice but to reveal that Li Yangxiao wants to perform the technique, and Master Zhang gets very angry. He tells them to lock him up and be executed after this ends. Yunsheng intervenes and tries to persuade Master Zhang, telling him that Li Yangxiao's advice helped her become an alchemist, and that Li Yangxiao defeated Lang Stuan using the floating life seal. Master Zhang is shocked and wonders if he is Yang Di's disciple. He then orders that they find Li Yangxiao at all costs. Yu Hejing and Lu Landuo are at a bar close to the academy. Yu Hejing tells Lu Landuo about Li Yangxiao's recent feats, but she tells him she doesn't want to hear them. She tells him also never to bother her again and leaves. Yu Hejing is vexed that she rejected him after chasing her for so long. Manhwa, a part-time saleswoman at the bar, brings some drinks to him so he can buy them. He recognizes her as an academy student and advances toward her, asking her to be his girlfriend. She rejects him, and he tries to force her, but Li Yangxiao's friends see them and decide to intervene. Yu Hejing gets scared when he discovers they are Li Yangxiao's friends, and he immediately leaves. After he leaves, they both talk about how they have been unable to find Li Yangxiao for some days. Meng Wu overhears them and reveals what happened to them. At the Long family courtyard, while Long Ran, the second young master of the Long family, practices martial arts, he discovers that his father is unhappy and decides to ask what is wrong. His father, the leader of the city guards, tells him that the whole country has been searching for a young man but hasn't found him. He asks Long Ran about his brother, and he tells him that he went to the prison to find some guy that injured his arm some days back. The father soon gets frightened when he discovers that it is Li Yangxiao. Soon Master Zhang and Professor Yunsheng arrive, and Lord Long becomes really terrified. They tell him they discovered that Li Yangxiao had been locked in his mansion for days, so finding him has been difficult. Lord Long apologizes, saying it was his son's doing, and decides to take them to Li Yangxiao's prison. He just fears that Long Hao has not yet killed him. Meanwhile, in prison, Li Yangxiao discovers that his broken meridians have been fully repaired, but the Yuan Qi flowing through his body needs time to recover fully. Long Hao arrives with his men, and they soon torture him. Li Yangxiao sees that 35 people have come to torture him, of which 12 are warriors, and 1 is a martial master. Long Hao punches him in anger, and he realizes that his body is absorbing the impact and converting them into Yuan Qi due to using the heavenly tyrant body training technique. Li Yangxiao is astonished by this, and realizes that this is why he was defeated while fighting the Terran martial emperor in his past life. Long Hao's men start to whip him to torture him, not knowing it makes him stronger. After some whippings, he just needs 10 more whips to break through to the 3-star martial warrior, but they stop beating him since they realize that he is stubborn, and they decide to use the powder called insanity to clear the mind to torture him instead. The powder causes the subject to become crazy for some period of time. As they attempt to use the powder on him, Li Yangxiao suddenly breaks through to the 3-star martial warrior level, and the chains holding his hands get broken. He pushes the powder away, throwing it at them and causing them to start reacting to it immediately. Long Hao orders Uncle Ma, the martial master among them, to kill Li Yangxiao. Li Yangxiao attacks him using the Universal Soul Suppressor Demon Moon technique and defeats him quickly. Soon, everyone gets affected by the powder and starts to do horrible things, and Li Yangxiao takes his leave. As he opens the door leading out of the dungeon, he sees his friends and the others who have been looking for him. They are surprised he is not injured and wonder what happened in the dungeon. They all get irritated and throw up after seeing what is happening in the prison. Master Zhang introduces himself and asks if he can perform the golden needle acupuncture, and he replies that he can try. This puts Master Zhang off, but since no other person can save his daughter, he gives him a chance anyway. However, he threatens to deal with him if he fails and to reward him if he succeeds. Li Yangxiao then requests that Meng Wu and Yunsheng be his assistants while performing the procedure. At the cryo chamber where the princess is laid, Master Zhang asks Li Yangxiao about his success rate. He replies that it would have been 100% if the subject was a man, but because it's a lady, it is 90% since he would have to throw the needles from 15 meters away through curtains as he doesn't want to see the princess nakedness. Master Zhang is shocked and thinks he is unserious. Others rebuke him for playing around, as throwing the needles from afar is dangerous. However, he tells everyone to go out, leaving Yunsheng and Meng Wu with him. Yunsheng still doubts that he can pull this off, so he convinces her by telling her he will insert the needles 7 millimeters deep into her body using the same method. He does this flawlessly, and Yunsheng becomes shocked at how he could do it. Soon, he starts the procedure, and before they know it, he is done. He steps out of the cryo chamber. Master Zhang sees him and thinks he hasn't started the procedure yet. He is shocked when Li Yangxiao tells him that he is finished. He gets angry, thinking Li Yangxiao is still joking around and playing with the princess' life. However, Yunsheng affirms that he is done with performing the procedure and that the princess is fully healed. Master Zhang can't believe this, as Lai Yongxiao started the procedure a few minutes ago. He soon discovers that Lai Yongxiao is telling the truth and wonders how he could solve a decade-long problem in just a few minutes. Lai Yongxiao gets pissed and begins to rebuke Master Zhang, and everyone gets shocked. Yunsheng tells him to apologize, but he says he will only apologize when Master Zhang has mastered the flying acupuncture needles. Master Zhang can't do anything as he knows Lai Yongxiao is more informed than he is. Yunsheng calls Lai Yongxiao's friends aside and asks them how Lai Yongxiao has transformed in just a short time. They tell him they don't know either, and they all speculate that he has been hiding for a long time and had to reveal himself now because of the current situation in the Lai family. Meanwhile, Manhwa beats Lai Yongxiao and asks if he can look at her brother. He follows her to her house to check the condition of her brother, Menbai. Seeing him, he discovers that it isn't an illness, but that her brother has a special body called the Heaven and Earth Poison Body. Manhwa asks him if it can be cured, but he says it can't. She begs him to find a way to cure her brother, but he explains that it isn't an illness, but a special body type that he was born with, different from normal people. The poison overwhelmed his weak body, which is why he is like that. He tells her that if they can work on building his strength, there will be no problem in the future. He tries using the golden acupuncture needles, but they don't work as the poison is stronger than he expected. He then decides to absorb the poison into his body. Menbai gets completely healed, and Mengwu is so delighted to see his brother alive again. She introduces him to Lai Yongxiao, saying he saved his life. Lai Yongxiao tells him to kneel and bow his forehead to the ground 3 times, and he will take him as a disciple, but he refuses, saying Lai Yongxiao is too young to be his master. Mengwu forces him to kneel and tells him that it is a rare privilege for him to be under Lai Yongxiao. Lai Yongxiao tells him that he will teach him the heavenly tyrant body training technique so he can build his strength with it, but Menbai asks that he teaches him stronger martial techniques instead. He doesn't know how powerful the tyrant technique is. However, Lai Yongxiao teaches some of the styles of the body training technique for a start. After a while, he sees some raw ores of primordial stones lying around. He sees a particular one and senses it is not just a piece of raw ore. He breaks it and sees it is the precious 5th-grade purple sunstone used for constructing gravity arrays. He takes it for himself and takes his leave. On his way back, he is glad that he found a new disciple with an amazing body constitution who could be the best among his disciples in the future. He concludes that it's time to make a Xuan weapon for himself since he accidentally got a purple sunstone, so he decides to go to the Alchemist Association. On getting to the Alchemist Association, Miss Lu Yao welcomes him and tells him that Master Zhang and President Xi are looking for him. He wonders why and goes to meet them anyway. On getting to their office, he goes to sit down like their boss and asks them why they have called him. He is given an invite to a banquet the king is hosting to celebrate Yunsheng and the princess's recovery. He is surprised that this is the reason they summoned him for. They then ask him if he is Yang Di's disciple, but he says no, and they wonder how he then knows the floating life seal and the golden needle acupuncture. Lai Yongxiao, quite impatient, decides to leave, but they beg him to wait a little and present some gifts to him as a small token of appreciation: the badge of a second-tier alchemist and a Xuan weapon. President Xi apologizes as he only has the authority to issue second-tier badges, even though the technique he displayed is more advanced than the second tier. Master Zhang presents his precious Xuan weapon to him, but Lai Yongxiao comments that it has many flaws. He goes on to list out the flaws that Master Zhang begins to see the weapon as scrap metal. He asks Lai Yongxiao on how he can refine Xuan weapons of higher quality. Lai Yongxiao tells him that he plans to refine a Xuan weapon for himself, and they can watch and learn while he does it. Lai Yongxiao is beginning to gain the attention of all the martial lords of the Tanshui country. Will he become lord over them all, or meet someone higher in ranking and than he is? Let us know if you want the next part in the comment section. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you guys in the next video.